بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, tonight we're going to share inshallah some beautiful verses from Surah Isra. Surah Isra is right in the middle of the Quran. It starts juz number 15, the 15th part of the Quran. As you know, Quran is divided in 30 sections. These are equal sections, and Surah Isra is right in the middle, the beginning of the 15th section, or as we call it, the juz. Now, this surah has many subject themes, and the first verse of this surah talks about how Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, went from Mecca all the way to Jerusalem, and all the way from Jerusalem to seventh heaven and above. We call this the event of Isra and Mi'raj. We are familiar with that. But since it's not the occasion of Isra and Mi'raj, even though it's worthy to mention it outside of Isra and Mi'raj, we're just gonna skip that part and go and focus on some verses that I would say they are in the middle of the surah. And these verses are not all about one particular subject, but almost every verse has a different subject. So today is going to be a mix of so many subjects together. And when we do something like that, it's impossible to ponder a lot. So we're going to go swiftly through each of these subjects mentioned in the surah. But we're going to give enough time for us to reflect, even if it's a little bit, so we can draw quickly a few lessons here and there, and we can ponder on these verses. And I strongly recommend every single one of you to read this surah often, Surah Isra. As a matter of fact, this is one of my favorite surahs as well, as it was one of the favorite surahs of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, according to our mother, the mother of the believer, Sayyidatuna Aisha radiallahu anha. She said that Prophet alaihi wasallam would recite this surah among other surahs as well. He would recite this every night. This surah was revealed during the period of time when Prophet ﷺ was in the city of Mecca before leaving for Medina. Now, the verses that I have chosen here are going to be verses number 23 and on. So I'm going to continue probably with another 7 or 8 verses from 23 to probably 30 or something like that. Let's check it out. The first verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this surah, he says, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبَرَ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. In this verse and a few more verses after this one talks about respecting, honoring, fulfilling the rights that we have upon our parents. And later on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَآتِ ذَا الْقُرْبَى حَقَّهُ وَالْمِسْكِينَ وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ وَلَا تُبَذِّرْ تَبْذِيرًا. And give the relative their right. So we have rights towards our parents, we have rights to our children, we have rights to our neighbors, we have rights to al-qurba. Al-qurba means these people that are relatives. That's why in Islam it is highly suggested that we give the sadaqah or we give the zakat to those that are near to us. And I'm not talking about the immediate relative like the father or the brother, but I'm talking about sadaqah can be given to them, but I'm talking about even zakat or a help, lending out the hand of help. It is something really good to do. Why? Because you are not only helping them and receiving rewards from that help, but at the same time, you are strengthening the bond between them and you. So the relative bond is being strengthened by you helping them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recognizes that, and he says, and give the relatives their right. And then also says, and also the poor, give to the poor their right. And give also to the travelers their right. And do not spend wastefully. The verse right after that, it says, إِنَّ الْمُبَذِّرِينَ كَانُوا إِخْوَانَ الشَّيَاطِينَ وَكَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ لِرَبِّهِ كَفُورًا. Indeed, the wasteful people are brothers of devils. And ever has Satan been to his Lord ungrateful. So when you are wasting, whether you're wasting money or wasting resources, whatever the case may be, then you are resembling devils, because those are the ones who waste. And Sheikh Ahmed, I believe last week he was talking about wasting, and how Ramadan teaches us not to waste. Ramadan teaches us to appreciate those blessings that we have. Thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for blessings that we have. Utilize those blessings in the best possible way, but do not go into excess where you are wasting them. You have to think about those who are in need. Whether, like I said, it's not always the money. There can be other things as well involved with this one. But it's important to note here that Allah is resembling those who waste with the brothers of devil. And then later on he says, and if you must turn away from the needy, awaiting mercy from your Lord, which you expect, then speak to them in gentle words. So in other words, if you don't have yourself to give, and they're asking for something that is beyond your capacity, then don't rebuke them. Don't tell them, go away, because you're used to all the time come to us and ask for money or ask for help and this and that. I'm sick and tired of you. Get away from here. This is unfortunately the approach of many individuals out there. Well, even if the person keeps coming to you, that person has a need that he comes to you or she comes to you. And if you don't have it, then at least send them away with nice words. Send them away with a dua. Send them away with something good. It doesn't have to always be, like I said, a fulfillment of their request. But at least you can be nice about it. Next verse says, وَلَا تَجْعَلْ يَدَكَ مَغْلُولَةً إِلَىٰ عُنُقِكَ. Don't make your hand chained to your neck, or extend it completely and thereby become blamed and insolvent. What does that mean? Just, you can look at me. Don't make your hand that is so tight to your neck, and don't make it so spread out there. It means that don't be a stingy person. Don't be a stingy person. Be generous. But don't also extend your hand to such a level where you're going to be needy yourself from giving. Whether it is given or whether it is spending on yourself and others around you. There are some people who are very stingy. They're very tight. They don't want to give. Why? Because they think that this is theirs and they have worked so hard and it is theirs. Ultimately it's theirs. And ultimately, the reality is that it's not theirs, but it is God's, everything. Look, you live in this life. Imagine everything that you have. Imagine your car, your house, your money in the bank, your investments, people around you, whatever you possess. Some of us possess less, some of us possess way more. The day when you pass away from this world, all of it, you leave it behind. And your children will leave it behind. And their children will leave it behind. Nobody is going to take this wealth into the grave. The only thing that you take with you in the grave are your righteous deeds, your good deeds. So why not then focus on those things instead of focusing on things that are temporary? So don't be so stingy. Why? Because through that, when you give out, when you help, through that, you can earn paradise. You can earn those righteous deeds. But when you're stingy and you don't give, then you're blocking yourself from these khairat. You're blocking yourself from receiving these benefits. But at the same time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, nor extend it completely. So don't be wasting. Not necessarily wasting, but don't give it so much so you can end up not benefiting from your own wealth as well, or not fulfilling the rights of yourself that you have for yourself, and the rights that you have for your own family members, or the rights that you have probably for your near relatives. So you have to be wise about it. Yes, you have to be generous, but at the same time, you have to strike a balance of keeping something for yourself too, so this way you can get it going. You don't end up there and extend your hand and ask the others, well, because I spent everything. And again, here we're not referring to those who are spending the money to the poor. I mean, that is good, as a matter of fact. Well, it's not recommending that you spend all the money and you have nothing for yourself, but at least even if you do that, you have not done something horrible, right? Most of the people, when they spend the money, they spend their money in satisfying their nafs. For example, they have no money, but they get into such loans where they have to get a huge house and a very expensive house in order to compete with the other people. And as a matter of fact, they are unable to support their monthly payments, and they are getting into debts day after day, into interest, and you name it. And or some other people, they will get a very fancy and very expensive car. They are unable to really support that payment. Why? So they can entertain their own inner desires. Or they do things like that, other people, those who drink, those who do other things that, of course, our religion prohibits, they live paycheck to paycheck, even though they get a lot of money, but they still live paycheck to paycheck. Why? Because unfortunately, they're taking all of that money, they go out there on daily basis and they just keep spending. Not on the poor, as I said, not on the poor, but they're spending it in order to satisfy their own desires, their carnal selves. And this is unbelievable. These are people who don't even think about those who are in need. It's all about satisfying themselves. And there's a lot of those out there, unfortunately. Paycheck to paycheck. Why? Because they are spending it in wrong things. Or even if they're spending it in right things, it's just satisfying themselves. So this is very important to understand this concept mentioned in verse number 29 in Surah Isra. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on by saying, Inna rabbak يبسط الرزق لمن يشاء ويقدر إنه كان بعباده خبيرا بصيرا. Indeed, your Lord extends provision for whom He wills and restricts it. So ultimately, it is not in your hands how much you're going to receive. So give it. Be among those who give. Because whatever you're supposed to have, it is a decision that it is already made by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when it comes to your sustenance. But then what's striking is إِنَّهُ كَانَ بِعِبَادِهِ خَبِيرًا بَصِيرًا. Indeed, He is ever concerning His servants, acquainted and seeing. So He knows what's going on. He is observing you. The wealth, sustenance that we have, it's an amana for us. And we are responsible to utilize that amana, that trust, in the right way. And then the Quran goes on by saying, verse number 31, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ خَشْيَةَ إِمْلَاقٍ نَحْنُ نَرْزُقُهُمْ وَإِيَّاكُمْ إِنَّ قَتْلَهُمْ كَانَ خِطْئًا كَبِيرًا. And do not kill your children for fear of poverty. Back in the days, Arabs, they used to kill their female children. Why? Because, well, they just have to feed them, and later on they get married. They don't bring anything back to the family. Why raise them? So that was the mentality. And he says that doing something like that, he says, نَحْنُ نَرْزُقُهُمْ وَإِيَّاكُمْ. We are the ones who provide for them and also for you. So it is, we're going to give you. And you see, subhanAllah, people, when they have children, the risk, the sustenance keeps increasing and increasing. Indeed, their killing, he says, is ever a great sin. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Another thing that God here prohibits people from committing to is adultery. And do not approach unlawful sexual intercourse. Indeed, it is ever an immorality and is evil as a way. وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ. And do not kill a soul which God has forbidden, except by right. What does this mean, except by right? Unless the person commits another murder or is a mass murderer, well, there's going to be a capital punishment for that individual as well. This is one of the times when an individual's life can be taken away. But again, it doesn't end up in people's hands, take their own revenge. Like, okay, that person has done this to me, now I'm gonna go back to that person. We talked yesterday about al-ainu bil-ain, was-sinnu bis-sin. Like an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. This doesn't mean that the individual, he himself or herself, is going to pay back, or has to take the revenge with his own or her own hands. No, there's a government, there is a system. Whether you live here in America, you live in Muslim countries, wherever you are, there is a system that deals with these procedures. So you put your trust into the system, and the system is designed in such a way that will take care of these problems. But it is permissible in that case, as the Quran says, وَمَنْ قُتِلَ مَظْلُومًا, he says, and whosoever is killed unjustly, we have given his hair authority, but let him not exceed limits in the matter of taking life. Indeed, he has been supported by the law. And this goes into the details of fiqh. There is qisas as well here that it can be incorporated. Anyways, I'm not going to go into those details right now, but yes, this talks about those laws as well, this verse of the Quran. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا مَالَ الْيَتِيمِ إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ حَتَّى يَبْلُغَ أَشُدَّهُ, and do not approach the property of an orphan except in the way that is best, until that person reaches the age of maturity. And subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in this in this verse and throughout many other verses in the Quran, don't get close to this to the mal yatim, to the wealth of the orphans, whether it is land, whether it is money in the account, whatever the case may be. Why? Because they are very easy to be attacked, right? As individuals or as wealth that they possess. They're very easy to, their wealth, it's easy to, they're vulnerable, right? The yatims and women, for example, they're vulnerable. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't take advantage of that in this verse. وَأَوْفُوا بِالْعَهْدِ, and fulfill every commitment. We stress this, in particularly the times when we live in. We live around people who don't fulfill their commitment. Well, not all of them, but there's a lot of people who do not fulfill their commitments. They say something, they do something else. They say we're going to do this, they never do it. Don't be among those people. And unfortunately, it has become like a joke in the Muslim communities. Oh, he says inshallah. Inshallah, it means that no. Or inshallah, is it inshallah yes, or is it inshallah no? Like, what kind of approach is this? How can a Muslim, end up being a person who is irresponsible when that person commits to something? Since when? The Quran, right and left, talks about commitments and fulfilling those, uqud or al-ahd, as it is mentioned in the Quran. In Surah Al-Mu'minun, it is mentioned at the beginning of the surah. In Surah Isra, he says, وَأَوْفُوا بِالْعُقُودِ, therefore fulfill every commitment that you commit to. Indeed, the commitment is ever that about which one will be questioned. So you're going to be, and you have to answer for all the commitments that you did not fulfill. Why you did not fulfill it, right? You promise that you're going to do something. Why you didn't, fulfill that promise? وَأَوْفُوا الْكَيْلَ إِذَا كِلْتُمْ وَزِنُوا بِالْقِسْطَاسِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ وَأَحْسَنُ تَأْوِيلًا, and give full measure when you measure, and weigh with an even balance. And you go to markets, I'm talking about those aswaq sha'bi, as the Arabs they call it, those bazaars, that's where you see the most evil taking place there, because people are trying to cheat you left and right. This is unbelievable. Cheating you left and right. Why? Because they are concerned of making a little bit more. They're not going to make a lot more, but just so they can make that a little bit more, even if it requires the person to end up committing haram and not putting that scale equal, not putting the scale the way how they should put it. And give full measure when you measure, and weight with an even balance. That is the best way and best in result. And then another ayah says, we're coming to an end inshallah, وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. And do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge. Subhanallah, people nowadays, they don't have the right sources. They have not studied a particular topic. But when it comes to talking to the others, they talk to the others as they are experts. There is a problem, there is a disease, there is an advice from the doctor, and they're ready to reject all that kind of stuff. Why? Because they think that it is something else. Or they make up stories, they make up history, they make up, I don't know, all kinds of stuff. They talk like they're experts. They talk like they know the politics very well, what's happening everywhere. Yet they have no school, they have no degrees, they have nothing. They have never studied these things, they have never sat down with people who are professionals, or, they're smarter than doctors sometimes, even though they have never taken any class in medicine. They're smarter than ulama, than the scholars. They're going to give you fatwa right and left. They're going to tell you what is haram, what is halal, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, even though they have no formal training in Islamic studies at all. This is horrible. We live in times where everybody's so smart, yet they never went through the steps of becoming, professionals, or becoming well equipped with knowledge. Allah says, وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. Do not pursue that which you have no knowledge. Don't pretend. Don't keep telling people this and that when you have no real knowledge about things. Why? Because you can damage the other people. You can misinform the other people. Inna sam'a, he says, Inna sam'a wal basar wal fu'ad kullu ulaika kana anhu mas'ula. Indeed, the hearing, the sight, and the intelligence, here fu'ad means heart, but he's referring to the intelligence here, is all about all of these. For all of these, the individual is going to be questioned on the Day of Judgment. How did you use your intellect? How did you use your ear? How did you use your sight, your eyes? And then later on he says in verse number 37, وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا إِنَّكَ لَن تَخْرِقَ الْأَرْضَ وَلَن تَبْلُغَ الْجِبَالَ طُولًا. Subhanallah, this is beautiful verse. And do not walk upon earth with arrogance. Do not walk on earth with arrogance. Indeed, you will never tear the earth apart. So you're walking. Look, Allah is not saying don't walk in front of the people with pride. Don't walk in front of the people with pride, because some others, they can be more knowledgeable, much better than you, more valuable than you, more virtuous than you. No, he doesn't go that route. Look what he chooses here. Fil ardi. Don't walk upon earth. Why? It's a reminder to the human that you come from it. You don't come from these other individuals that you see around you, regardless, even if they are more virtuous than you. But he is calling you for another fact, which is a deep realization. And also, it is your mother, earth, that you come from. So you have rights upon the earth, yet you are unable to tear that apart. You don't possess the earth. You are unable to really, because that's something huge, that's something really powerful, that you are stepping on it. God has favored you to walk on top of it, even though that thing that you're walking on top, it is something that is more powerful than you are. God is favoring you by giving you all of this. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. We are honoring the children of Adam, and we're carrying them on land, and we're carrying them on sea, and وَفَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَى كَثِيرٍ مِمَّنْ فَضَّلْنَا تَفْضِيلًا. And we are given a lot of favors, a lot of bounties compared to many other creatures that we have created. We're given to the human being all of these good stuff. But why? Again, why going back to the land and to the sea and to, because this is way more powerful, something that deserves more attention, something that is more valuable than you as a human being. Because look, if you don't have that earth, you cannot have many things that you witness on daily basis. It is because of that earth that you have under you. Still, he has subdued that for you. Like, you are the one who can work with that earth. You are the one who can benefit out of it. Is under your service. The earth is under your service. The sun is under your service. The air is under your service. Yet, but when you see the reality of the things is, you are almost incomparable. You as an individual, you're almost incomparable with that thing that you walk on top of, that you put your step on top. You are incomparable. But yet Allah has given you that value. So you are unable. إِنَّكَ لَن تَخْرِقَ الْأَرْضِ وَلَن تَبْلُغَ الْجِبَالَ طُولًا. You are unable to reach the height of the mountains either. So if a creature of God has to be, a creation of God has to be, proud in front of the other creation, it would be the earth, or it would be, in this case, the mountains, because they are huge, they are very powerful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then says, كُلُّ ذَلِكَ كَانَ سَيِّئُهُ عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ مَكْرُوهًا. All of that, its evil is ever in the sight of your Lord detested. Now, again, we live around people who they act as they are the owners of everything. Why? Because they have some money and they treat the others like slaves. They have an attitude in relations with the others. The people that you work with, you got a manager, you got a supervisor, you got, I don't know, a director, whatever the case may be, they feel like they owe everything and you are their slave. They got an attitude. People around, this is, it's sick. It's really sick. We have to, in this society that we live in, we have to value things that are to be valued. And we also have to talk about those concerns. We have to talk about things that are concerning. Among the things that is very concerning in the society that we live in is the attitude of the people. Their kibr, their pride. Everybody is proud, even though they don't deserve that pride, but everybody is proud. Why? Why people like this? And we are led by people who are arrogant like that as well. We are led by arrogant people as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed us in the society to change these things as well. One of the positive roles that we as Muslims can contribute to the society is that we can switch, we can change these bad behaviors and try to make them better. But of course, this requires wisdom. You cannot go up there to somebody and say, hey, why you're acting arrogantly? Do you know that our religion forbids this? Or do you know that this is wrong? Everybody knows that it's wrong, but yet they're doing it. It is your job and my job, through this hikmah, through this wisdom, to teach these people and to correct these evil diseases that do exist there in society. And this is where I'm going to end it, inshallah, tonight. I took a little bit more than the normal time. If there is any question or if there's any concern, I'll be happy to take it. Otherwise, we can call it a night, inshallah, tonight.
Yes, Imam. I have a question from the community asking about the four rak'at sunnah of dhuhr prayers.
Yes.
And the question is it right to pray 4 rak'ah sunnah of dhuhr prayer with 2 salams?
Okay, that's a good question. Not related to our topic, but this is about the fiqh of the salah, the rules of prayer. It is permissible, yes. And you're talking, I believe, the dhuhr, the sunnah before the dhuhr, right?
The sister didn't
say?
mention, but it doesn't say. The question doesn't say.
Most likely the person is asking about the sunnah before dhuhr. If you're referring to those ones, you can, we have evidence in the ahadith of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam that these 4 rak'ahs can be performed either 2 and do the tashahhud in between and then stand for the 3rd and the 4th and then give salam, or you can do 2, give salam and perform the other 2 and then give salam again. That's also another valid way of doing the sunnah. Or you can even just do 2 sunnahs. If you're in a rush, you can even do the sunnah. That is also based on That is based on the sunnah as well, instead of four. But again, the most virtuous thing to do here would be to perform all four sunnah, and the most common one would be to do the tashahhud, and then after that stand for the third and the fourth. But like I said, even if you give salam after two and then you do another two, that is totally fine.
And she just confirmed it's the sunnah before fard.
Yes. All right.
Um, the other question, Imam, I have actually related to the killing children from the fear of poverty, because I see people sometimes worries about that, but not only worries, they look at people with poverties and they blame them for having a lot of kids, even though they can't sustain that and they can't provide for these kids. And they kind of say, why do you have kids if you don't have money to provide, you know?
Hmm.
But then others comments and say that rizq is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so they shouldn't be worried about having kids because they don't have, because Allah is the provider, and he is the one who gives rizq. I just wanted to clarify this point, if you
Yeah.
can,
Yeah. I
if you don't
mean,
mind.
it's we're not given any other interpretation but the way how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has stated in the Quran. As we mentioned earlier, he says ولا تقتلوا النفس he says ولا تقتلوا أولادكم خشية إملاق. It's a very straightforward sentence. Do not kill your children for fear of poverty. Now, do you have to have many children? That's another question. But I mean, that's another question that the Quran here is not legislating, is not telling you that you should have this number of children, or you can go up to this limit and you cannot have more, or you should have a lot children. In the Quran, there is no mandate in that. So we have to be very clear about this one. Let's say a couple who decides to have a few children and they say, we're not going to have 10 children, they're not committing a sin by making that decision. However, it is the sunnah of the life and the sunnah of Prophet ﷺ as well to have children, you know. But some people, they think that it is a must. You know, this is, we're talking about individuals, family plans, and um, if they are satisfied with two, they're satisfied with three, they're satisfied with four, they're satisfied with 10. Alhamdulillah. Sometimes they also have to take into consideration whether they are able to deal with those children too. That's another important thing. But after they're born, there is no question whether should they exist or they shouldn't exist, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who's given that soul and life to that soul, is the one who's going to sustain that soul. So there is no question at that time. But it could be a valid question before having children, thinking how many children you're going to have and so on. That is not haram to decide that you're not going to have more than two children, for example. That has to be clarified there. Yes.
Jazakumullah khair. I have also another question from the community. Is birth control haram? I think it relates to the same topic.
Oh, we're getting into we're getting into other fit. I think this is going to be a longer talking about birth control. There are some times when it is not haram, and I'll just leave it right there. Um, Overall, is not a preferred thing to do. I will tell you this too. At least it's going to be makruh for sure, but it is not. There are. It depends on cases, from case to case, in order to say whether it is prohibited or not. So, inshallah, some other time we may go into details, or the person who's asking that may approach me directly, and based on his uh, family situation, if it's him asking for his wife, or if it's wife herself asking for this one, inshallah, I can be able to answer privately. That would be probably a better way of approaching this one. But I want to mention a decision that was made today by the Council of Mosques here in Arizona. Alhamdulillah, we had a meeting with the imams and mosque representatives in Arizona today, and we have decided to postpone the opening of the mosques. Again, we are postponing not the services. The services, we're still in services right now. We're still connected with one another, but we have postponed the services in the mosque. So there is not going to be a Taraweeh prayer this Ramadan at all, even though the government on the 15th is opening so many stores and malls and movie theaters and you name it. We had a long discussion, about an hour and a half today, going through all the adillas, going through all of these proofs and going through, and majority of the imams, they mashallah, it was a beautiful conversation, and majority of them, they said that this is not the right moment to do that. We are going to also look at what's going to happen during this time, since a lot of businesses are opening, a lot of places are opening. Let's see what happens. If the number starts increasing way more and this is a bad idea, for government to do this, if that's the case, I'm not saying it is a bad idea. If this is a bad idea, if this was a bad idea, currently they're unsure. Yesterday, I had a conversation with governor's office and with the staff members, with faith leaders as well. We were in a meeting. Um, they mentioned that pretty much they're not sure. They don't know what's going to happen. That's the bottom line. They don't know what's going to happen in the future, but they also recognize the importance of opening these businesses, because the economy has to start somewhere now. Otherwise, with a bad economy, there's going to be a rise of crime and a lot of other bad stuff that will happen. So they're giving it a try, whether it's a good idea or it's a bad idea. They're giving it a try, but we don't have to fall victims of this disease, because we're just simply going with the government, and we're going with the opening of the malls and opening of Home Depots and I don't know, all the other restaurants and movie theaters and stuff like that. We don't have to hurry when we are not sure what's going to happen. Uh, because right now it's on rise, and it's not going down at all. It may differ from day to day, but it is way up there. So if we see that when these businesses are open and people are able to maintain that social distancing, and the disease either stays there or it starts decreasing, then we're going to be able to say, you know what, Bismillah, let's open the doors, let's restart the services in the masajids as well. So there's not going to be an Eid, unfortunately, this year, Eid al-Fitr. We're not going to have Friday. I was under the impression that we could start next Friday. That was my idea. I was like, let's give it a try and see, maybe next Friday might be a good day, as long as people, they implement all the measures. But I saw the overwhelming majority of the imams, who are saying that this is not a good idea. Among them, we have doctors, who are saying that in our community, we have doctors that I checked with as well. Dr. Vikas, who's also a board member, and Dr. Vikas, in a conversation I had with him, he said it's not a smart idea. It's not a good idea to open. We're not ready yet to open, despite the government, giving permission to these businesses to open. I am aware that there is a few mosques. I don't know a few mosques, but I know one for sure. And I don't want to go into the names. Probably a lot of you are familiar with. They have opened the masjid for Taraweeh prayers, for Friday prayers. I personally don't know why there is a need for Taraweeh prayers when the Taraweeh prayer is not mandatory to begin with. I don't get that, but I understand that the mosques, they need to be supported too. I personally would not risk the lives of the humans, because the mosque needs to be supported. That's me personally, and this is what majority of the imams are saying too. But I guess one place or two places, they're going according to that. They're going with those. Uh, Maybe with some recommendations of doctors, and even doctors, I heard that they are, they're saying different things too. They're not all in the same page, and they're taking probably the ideas of those doctors who are saying, okay, let's open up. So, you know, I would recommend that you be patient, inshallah ta'ala. I would not recommend that you go to the masajids that are open and go and perform prayers there, because I'm not saying it because I don't like what they're doing, but I'm concerned about your health. I'm concerned about your health and the health of every believer, as a matter of fact. And the way how I see it as trouble, you know, at this time. And inshallah, it's not. I hope and I pray I'm wrong. Inshallah, I am wrong. But this would be my advice based on our thoughts right now, based on human life, because human life comes above everything else at this point. You know, you cannot, if you're sick, you cannot perform your prayers as you should. If you're sick, you cannot do fasting. If you're sick, I mean, health is very important. And we have waited for so long. Let's wait a little bit more and let's see what happens. We have decided to have another meeting, inshallah, at the end of Ramadan. It's going to be the last Friday of Ramadan. That's where we're going to make a decision. Then we're going to say, all right, based on the evidence that we have now, based on the ways how things are going, we have enough information to either say that we are restarting the services in our mosques or not. And you know what I appreciate about this is the fact that we are all getting together. In Arizona, the mosques, alhamdulillah, that is something huge. That is something beautiful. Again, there are a few mosques here and there who are doing things on their own, but overall, this is amazing that we're all following one statement. We're all saying, for example, yes, and we're all doing it. We're saying no, and we're not doing it. That's something that has to be appreciated, and it is something that we have to pray for, as a matter of fact, for the unity of the mosques and the leadership in the valley here. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless every single one of you, reward you. Inshallah, you get the rewards as you were all in the masajids, you know, in the mosques, performing prayers there. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be with all of you all the time. Ya Rabbil Alameen.
Jazakumullah khair.
Wa iyakum. Brother Ahmedu, I'm sorry, we didn't give you a chance to ask you if there is any concerns or questions from Facebook.
Yes, Imam, there was only one.
Yes.
He said, do not kill your children. Is that during pregnancy, to include abortion?
Yeah, that's also, it's going to take a long time to talk about it, because there are times when you are allowed to do it, abortion, and there are times when you're not supposed to do it. The bottom line is, when the child, according to our tradition, after 4 months, when the soul is inserted, at that time it is prohibited pretty much to commit abortion. Otherwise, before that, it is considered to be at least makruh. It is considered to be not a preferable thing to do, but it doesn't fall under haram. That's, again, it has more specifics, but if I can wrap it up in a few sentences, that would be the rule. After the soul is inserted, it's considered just like a normal human being, whether it is inside the womb of the mother or outside. Unless you have complication with pregnancy, the life of the mother is in danger, she's going to die. In cases like that, it is permissible, you know, to do abortion in that case, whether the child is older or, you know, after the soul is inserted, or the child is pre-insertion of the soul. So it's fine. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Barakallahu feekum. ونسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى القبول. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين.